For more than 100 years, the science of human behavior has been looking for its own periodic table. A simple map to explain our incredibly complex world. But what if that map has finally been found? And what if the world's most advanced AIs are all pointing to it, basically saying, yep, this is the one? Today, we're going to dig into a model that claims to be that very breakthrough. Let's get into it.
And this is what's so wild. This isn't just one person making a clever analogy. When you ask pretty much any of the leading AIs, we're talking Gemini, ChatGPT, Claude, you name it, they all independently come to the exact same conclusion. They look at the Unified Behavior Model, or UBM, and see a true periodic table for behavior. A simple, unifying framework for a field that honestly has been lost in chaos for decades.
So why is this such a huge deal? Well, to really get why this is a breakthrough, we first have to understand the century-long problem it claims to solve.
I want you to imagine chemistry before the periodic table. It was basically alchemy, right? Just a confusing mess of different substances, competing theories, and a whole lot of dead ends. There was no shared language, no foundational map. Sounds familiar? That's precisely how experts have been describing behavioral science for a very, very long time.
And listen, these aren't insults from outsiders. The quotes you're looking at right now are from leading behavioral scientists talking about their own field. For more than half a century, they've been using phrases like hopelessly fragmented and an incoherent mess to talk about the state of their own science.
Ouch.
Yeah, this problem is not new. As you can see on this timeline, it's been going on forever. Way back in '62, the famous philosopher of science Thomas Kuhn was already calling the field fragmented. But the really pivotal moment, that came in 1991. The National Institute of Mental Health got all the world's top theorists in a room to finally create a single, unified model. They spent a whole week on it and came up with nothing. They failed, no consensus was reached, and the chaos just kept going.
So how do you fix a science that's completely lost in chaos? Let's jump back to that chemistry analogy, because it really does hold the key.
The big breakthrough concept is this idea called elementalization. It's just a fancy word for the process of finding the absolute, most basic, irreducible building blocks of any system. So instead of getting lost in all the complexity, you just find the simple Lego bricks that create all that complexity in the first place. And this is the absolute genius of Dmitri Mendeleev's periodic table. He didn't invent any new chemicals. He just had this incredible insight that all the seeming chaos of matter could be organized by just a handful of fundamental elements. He revealed the simple, elegant order that was hiding underneath all the noise. And this leads us to the critical question, right? What if human behavior works the exact same way? What if the hundreds of different therapies and all these conflicting theories, what if they aren't the real story? What if they're all just complex combinations of a few simple, core elements? This brings us right to the core proposal of the Unified Behavior Model, which says that, yep, there are fundamental elements, and there are just 4 of them.
The model's claim is surprisingly simple. It suggests that every single human action, from a tiny habit like brushing your teeth to a massive life-changing decision, it all emerges from the interplay of just these 4 domains. Not 5, not 10, just 4.
Okay, so what are they? Let's break them down real quick. First, you have stories. This is all our cognition, our beliefs, the meanings we make. Second, emotions. These are the feelings that give us energy. Third, behaviors. Pretty simple. Our observable actions, our habits, our skills. And fourth, the environment, which is both our external world and our internal biology, our body itself.
Now this is the absolute key insight. Something like motivation, it isn't some mysterious 5th element. In this model, it's a compound. Just like H2O, water is a compound of hydrogen and oxygen. Motivation is just what you get when you mix a couple of the core elements together. This table makes the whole idea crystal clear. Just look at motivation. The model says that's a compound of a story, say your goal, plus an emotion, the desire you have to achieve it. Or look at anxiety. It's the same 2 elements, just a different recipe, right? A threatening story plus the emotion of fear. A habit? That's just a behavior linked to an environment. Suddenly, all these really complex ideas become simple, predictable combinations.
Okay, so we've got this simple, elegant model. But what does it actually do for us, What's the so what? Why does breaking behavior down into elements even matter in the real world?
Well, the payoff is all about speed and clarity. Think of these 4 elements as the interstate highway system for your behavior. They're the main routes that connect everything. And if you know the main highways, you can diagnose problems and figure out where you're going incredibly quickly. For the last 100 years, behavioral science has given us thousands of maps of the side streets, all these specialized therapies and models. And they're all useful for sure. But without a bigger map, it's so easy to get lost driving around the neighborhoods. The UBM gives you that bigger map. It basically says, hey, find the main highway first. Figure out which of the 4 core elements is the real issue, and then you can pick the right tool for the job.
And applying it is just so simple. Step 1, what's the problem? Maybe it's procrastination. Step 2, which element is driving it? Is it a story you're telling yourself, an overwhelming emotion? Is it that you lack a specific behavior or skill, or is it something in your environment? Step 3, you just adjust the lever for that specific element. It gives you a clear, actionable place to start, every time.
Okay, and finally, this is where it gets really fun. The model doesn't just ask you to believe it, it actually asks you to try and break it.
And yeah, it puts its money where its mouth is to prove just how scientifically confident it is.
The challenge is dead simple. Can you find a 5th fundamental element, something that drives our behavior but, and this is the important part, cannot be broken down into stories, emotions, behaviors, the environment, or some combination of them? Now, this isn't some gimmick. It's a public test of the model's biggest claim, that these 4 elements are both necessary and sufficient to explain all of our goal-directed behavior.
The challenge is there to reinforce that this is a model built to be tested, not just blindly accepted.
And this goes right to the heart of what makes something good science. The famous philosopher Karl Popper argued that a theory is only scientific if you can prove it wrong. So by offering a really clear way for it to fail, find a fifth element, UBM is standing firmly on that core scientific principle.
So this leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought. After a whole century of ever-increasing complexity, what if the map to understanding ourselves was hiding in plain sight this whole time? If the foundation is really this simple, just think about what becomes possible when you start applying it to your own life.